Drug Agency reassures the efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine amid rising doubts. Kenya is observing 7 days national mourning in honor of John Magufuli.
The Secretary General and leader
and
of the
GMC leader Maifati says politics with morality will scrap away corruption from Gambia. These and more coming on the wall today. Stay with us. Good evening, you're watching the World Newscast with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to our news in detail. The European Union's drug agency on Thursday said the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine against COVID-19 is safe and effective. This approval comes following the suspension of the use of the vaccine in many European countries due to serious blood clots detected in those vaccinated. Desise tells us more.
The European medicine found that the AstraZeneca vaccine jab was not associated with a high risk of clots after thorough investigations were made last week. As Somalia joins other African countries to receive its consignment of the AstraZeneca vaccine, the United Nations Secretary General Special Representative for Somalia, James Swan, acknowledged the effectiveness of the vaccine.
We encourage people to take the vaccine. We encourage people to continue with all possible preventive measures, hand washing, mask wearing, social distancing. COVID is still a serious threat. We need to stay vigilant. The vaccine will help, but it is not the only solution.
Somalia's Health Minister, Dr. Fauci Abika, reiterated that the vaccine can fight against infections and deaths.
After tireless efforts, we have managed to receive the first batch of the vaccine, and we are expecting to receive more. I would like to thank all the UN families for the tremendous work with the Federal Ministry of Health and the Federal Member State Ministries of Health.
Meanwhile, the EU's Medicine Executive Director, Emma Coker, said the agency will carry out further investigations and recommended raising awareness of possible risk. 13 European countries, including France and Norway, suspended the use of the vaccine over fears of a link to blood clots. The World Health Organization has equally called on countries to continue using vaccines as it is safe and effective in protecting infections and deaths. The decision to suspend the use of the vaccine sparked concerns over many people, and this had affected the supply of the vaccine in poorer countries. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Desise.
The European Union Drug Agency says the AstraZeneca vaccine is safe for use. Now, the Committee of Health, Women and Children of Gambia's National Assembly on Thursday presented the Women Amendment Bill of 2020 for continuation. The bill, which is geared towards protecting the rights of women in the Gambia, was first tabled before the National Assembly in June last year by former Justice Minister Abubakar Tambedu.
If the bill passes all the lawmaking stages, public institutions will be required to observe a mandatory 30% women representation to bridge gender gap in employment. For education placement, including scholarship packages, the bill prescribes a minimum of 50% allocated for women. Some of these allocations have been interpreted as gender bias in some quarter within the National Assembly. The representative of Banjul Central gave a bit of explanation why he might not support some of the provision in the amendment bill.
I have a concern with B. 50% is on the high side. It's somehow gender bias, because sometimes you might have eligible candidates who are male. And like, for example, in a situation that the 75% are male and 25 are female, if you happen to give the 50% to the female, then it will be gender bias.
The National Assembly member for Serekunda reminded his colleagues that the time for the debate has already elapsed and for them to move on without amendments.
What we are doing is in fact contrary to the standing orders. This is not a debate. We've already engaged in the debate. It's concrete recommendation for amendment. And the procedures are there. Procedure before 2 p.m., anybody who wanted any form of amendment, it should have been submitted. If there is no notice, then the person must write an. Those issues are just opinions. They are not for consideration. The only consideration now is what has been submitted by the committee. I have not seen any other legitimate submission made.
The bill is also expected to domesticate several international obligations and commitments by the Gambia relating to women's rights. Since the enactment of the Women's Act in 2010, significant strides have been made on the side of law enforcement to protect women in the country. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
From the report by Fatoumata Kasim, every year, more than 100 newborn babies are lifted by men tied to a pole and taken for a ride around the temple at the Kilom Court in India. And according to the ancient Indian tradition, childless couples offering prayers at this temple will be blessed with children and later return with their newborn to fulfill their vow to the deity. This annual event was cancelled last year due to the impact of the global pandemic. And as a result, this year's festival attracted more than the usual number of people. And this Tokam festival is celebrated during the month of Nimam, and babies are lifted by men tied to a 12-meter high pole and taken for a ride around the temple. From that, Kenya is observing 7 days period of national mourning in honor of the late Tanzanian President John Magufuli. Tanzania into sadness over the death of the President Magufuli, with the country flying flags at half-mast, and 14 days of mourning after the Vice President announced he died of heart complications. Mariama Cham files in this report.
Magufuli's death comes after weeks of uncertainty over his health and rumors swirling that the coronavirus skeptic had in fact contracted the virus. The government denied that Magufuli was ill as pressure mounted on the authorities to explain his almost 3-week absence from public view. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered that the Kenyan flag and that of the East African community be flown half-mast until the late Tanzanian leader's remains are interred. Uhuru says the world has lost a great leader as he describes Magufuli a champion of a pan-Africanist.
We have learned with profound sorrow and indeed immense sadness of the untimely passing of my dear brother, His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli, President of the United Republic of Tanzania. On behalf of the government and people of Kenya, I convey our sincere condolences to the First Lady of Tanzania, Her Excellency Janet Magufuli, their children, the entire Magufuli family, and indeed affirm our deep solidarity with the government and people of Tanzania.
Uhuru ordered for a week mourning of Magufuli throughout Kenya, as the flag of the East African community and that of Kenya shall be flown at all public buildings and diplomatic missions abroad.
Therefore, I, Uhuru Kenyatta, under the authority vested in me as the President of the Republic of Kenya, do hereby order and direct that in testimony to the high esteem in which the people of Kenya hold President John Pombe Magufuli, the Republic of Kenya will observe a 7-day period of national mourning, and also that as a symbol of our enduring respect for the fallen president, as well as our solemn solidarity with the people and the nation of the United Republic of Tanzania.
The late Tanzania President John Magufuli died at a hospital in Dar es Salaam, aged 61. Tanzania's main opposition leader Tundu Lissu says Tanzania's President John Magufuli died from the coronavirus. Magufuli has been playing down the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, claiming Tanzania had freed itself from the COVID-19 through prayers. The Vice President, Samia Suluhu Hassan, is sworn in as President to complete the unexpired term of late President John Pombe Magufuli. Reporting for iAfrica News, this is Mariama Cham.
Kenyan President joins Tanzania to mourn the demise of President John Magufuli. Now, the Minister of Energy and Petroleum has on Thursday presented the International Solar Alliance proposal before the National Assembly for ratification. As the minister explained, the provision is open for United Nations member states, to which the Gambia is no exception.
International Solar Alliance is an action-oriented, member-driven, collaborative platform for increased deployment of solar energy technologies in ISA member countries. Fafa Sanyang, the Minister of Energy and Petroleum, said the membership of ISA is open to United Nations member states. The states, he continued, become part of ISA by signing the agreement and having deposited a ratification approval.
Partner countries are eligible to participate in programs of the ISA with the approval of members participating in the program. The amendment clause now reads that Article 7 now reads, membership is open to states which are members of the United Nations. Such states become members of ISA by having signed this agreement and having deposited an instrument of ratification and acceptance and approval. Honorable Speaker, after the scope of membership is open to all UN member countries, the affluent and technologically advanced countries on becoming members will be able to contribute in achieving the objective of ISA by way of sharing knowledge, technologies, best practices, and resources needed. In addition, once the membership is open to all UN member countries, it will expedite the process of acquiring observer status at the United Nations for ISA.
The National Assembly member for Upper Salum, Alaji Mbo, said Gambia becoming part of this association will be helpful as many countries are moving towards cleaner energy.
What this association intends to do really is about cooperation among countries, or about sharing technologies, about solar energy, and also in terms of building capacity for countries that actually lack it. Honorable Speaker, if you look at all the countries nowadays, they're moving towards clean energy, especially renewable side. Now, first in the Gambia, I think you've just started to see what the ministry is actually doing in Jambu. And these are all aimed at actually helping us to get enough energy and also to get very clean energy in this country. So becoming part of this kind of alliance, I think it's going to be very helpful in the sense that we'll be able to learn a lot from them in terms of capacity building, and we also try to know the latest technologies that are also involved.
However, the NAM for Central Badibu, Suleiman Saho, questioned the minister about the interest of the country in the agreement.
Now, we know that solar is what the world is going in for. And Gambia is not an exceptional in ensuring that we have, ensuring to have renewable energy. And we all know that the generators that we use, they are not environmental friendly. They cause a lot of pollution, and that is hazardous to our health. But if the minister and the team did their thorough research to see to it that the interests of this country will never be compromised in the agreement. And you should go further to convince this House what measures will you be taking as a ministry to ensure that the energy benefits us, where we will not have situations, countries, they capitalize on the agreement or the relationship, and they benefit more than us.
The framework agreement on the establishment of the International Solar Alliance for the Gambia was ratified by the National Assembly members. The goal of the ISA is to set the ground rules, norms and standards for solar energy in order to obtain a rapid and massive deployment in countries that are rich in solar resources but where the risks are still seen as high. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amindao.
From that report by Amindao, we will go with a short commercial break and continue with the rest of the stories. Stay tuned.
Hello! There's a new update from your favorite GSM operator, AfriCell.
For all of you that have struggled to buy cash power beyond $7,000, AfriCell has done it again. The limit to buy cash power is now up to $30,000. Oh yes, $30,000.
Buy all the cash power you want from your AfriMoney account by dialing *777#.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
It's an amazing offer. AfriMoney just got way better. The threshold for cash in and cash out on your AfriMoney has been increased.
Where it used to be 10,000 per transaction, now it has been increased to 30,000. Meaning, your AfriMoney account, you can now withdraw and deposit up to $30,000 at once.
Cashing in and out just got 3 times easier. For more info, call 777.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
If you're just joining, this is the World Newscast, and to the rest of our stories. Mai Ahmad Fati, the leader of the Gambia Moral Congress at the party's official Flag Day, 18th March 2021, says the Gambia needs politics of morality if it is to end corruption and have a life of dignity for its citizens. He says Gambians need to do away with foreign style of politics and revisit cultural values to have a sense of consciousness in our societies. Omar Ahmad Toure reports.
The Secretary General and leader of the Gambia Moral Congress, who was speaking during the party's official flag ceremony on Thursday, ruled out politics without morality, without which he believes society would be led to decadence.
We believe it is possible to practice politics with morality. And we believe with the foundation of morality as the cornerstone of politics, we will be able to drive away corruption in this country. We will be able to establish leadership with integrity. We will be able to enthrone honesty, decency, and respect for the dignity of labor in our body politic.
He says that morality in politics will consolidate national unity among citizens to create the right brotherhood that will lead to the success of the country. Mike calls on politicians to get rid of foreign principles and revisit the traditional values that the country was known for and make it a linchpin for the country's progress.
Respect for elders, a caring, compassionate society that has eluded us with the introduction of foreign values must be restored at the heart of the political conversation. So we seek to establish a society that cares for each other, that nurtures hope, and that works for results, and that produces prosperity for all and not just for the few.
The flag ceremony for GMC is scheduled for celebration every year to not only increase visibility for the party, but also to raise public awareness as the Gambia heads to elections later this year. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
The Egyptian government plans to improve its public spending as efforts to uplift the lives of the citizens amid the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Authorities of the North African country also seek to improve the tax collection management with the use of technology to boost revenue.
The newly announced budget reflects the state's policies to deal with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Economic growth rate is forecast to remain below the pre-COVID target of 5.5%, although total spending is set to rise by 9% year-on-year. Most of it is aimed at boosting social services.
We see a big increase in expenditure in education, the school and university levels, as well as the same increase in spending on the health sector. This goes with President Sisi's pledge in his second term in office to overhaul and upgrade the health and education services in the country with the aim to improve the quality of life for Egyptians.
Expenses will also be geared towards raising salaries and pensions, increasing social welfare programs for the poor, and emergency aid packages for struggling businesses and institutions. The government is not eyeing any tax hikes in the 2021-2022 fiscal year, but it expects revenues to jump by 13%. This is in spite of the significant drop in important sources of income, such as tourism and exports, which have been battered by the pandemic.
Though he announced no tax increase, the government is seeking to improve tax with better trained tax collectors, incentives for taxpayers, and introducing technology to reduce tax evasion. Another important revenue stream will come from investments in several sectors such as real estate, which is picking up quickly and attracting a lot of investors. We have huge mega projects, building new cities, roads, transport, industrial zones, attracting investments in multiple industries, including renewable energy projects and digital transformation.
Numbers show optimism of a recovery from the pandemic next year, with the budget surplus forecast to more than double, pushing deficit down by 1.2% of GDP.
As countries continue to plan means in reviving their economy, the lack of job opportunities in Nigeria continues to cause economic hardship for the citizens, as more than 20 million people are without job, according to the country's National Bureau of Statistics, and many businesses in the West African country were forced to shut down due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. And despite the measures put in place to resuscitate the economy, some analysts believe more needs to be done to improve the situation.
It's been about 7 years now since Jacob Onuche graduated from the university, but he's not been able to find a job. Reviews, but none has landed him a job yet.
I served Nigeria government as a youth corps in 2014, and since then, life has not been the same. You see, you have a younger one that are still looking onto you to become something so that they can tap from you. Your parents are there. They're training in school and they're return from you. There's nothing to show up. So what are you saying? See, this is where we find ourselves.
Onuche is just one of the 23.2 million Nigerians the National Bureau of Statistics says are unemployed. Of that figure, the majority are youths of active working age like Onuche. And with the number of graduates entering the labor force every year far outpacing the number of jobs created, it's inevitable the situation could worsen.
The federal government will give advertisement of job opportunity. The company will do the same thing and they'll tell you you must have 5 years experience, 2 years experience, 3 years experience. This is a young graduate that is just coming out of youth corps service.
Economic experts say the current job situation in Nigeria might have been better if the COVID-19 pandemic had not happened. Businesses were forced to shut down and workers laid off at the peak of the pandemic. Many businesses are not back, and even those that have come back are still struggling.
And you recall in 2019 August, the lockdown of our borders to neighboring countries in the ECOWAS, also in the Niger, Benin Republic, Togo, and all the rest, also have an impact in this increased labor statistics.
The rising unemployment rate is a big headache for a government that is also struggling to rein in on rising inflation and get the economy back on track following the easing of COVID-19 restrictions. Analysts say the government needs to take drastic actions like giving businesses tax breaks so they could recruit more.
In this process, cutting taxes, we can also put a benchmark on companies that retain or recruit more from this net that we have, that we need to also put back into the labor statistics, into the labor market, wherein if company A employ 100 number of people within the period Q3, Q4, and retain them for 12 months, you have particular rebates. We believe that all this can also stimulate the economy in the long run.
As for job seekers like Onuche, any policy or strategy that will get him that elusive job will be just fine.
Why we are facing this job?
That was all from me and the rest of the crew on The World Today. Gambia 24 is up next with Mariama Cham at 19:30 GMT. I am Sohna Tunkara. Thanks for watching and bye for now.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022. To successfully host the OIC Summit and put the Gambia on the global stage, the government of the Gambia set up OIC Gambia to mobilize resources for the implementation of key development and infrastructure projects on a